why she said these things to me. And she said, well, ma'am, we told you that there was a possibility of all of this. No, you didn't. You didn't say a flipping word. Okay, you gotta turn the sound off. I have to do so much editing since you walked in here. You totally messed me up. More. So, where was that? Oh, ma'am, we told you all of this was a possibility before. No, you said he didn't have pneumonia and that he had a virus. Even the virus or the infectious disease guy said virus. You guys kept saying virus. You didn't send me home with antibiotics. If he'd had pneumonia, you would have sent me home with more antibiotics. Now, we stated all this stuff to you. If you have any further questions, you can call the office. But I suggest you keep that appointment with the cardiologist. I'm so flipping pissed that I immediately picked up the phone again and started making appointments for pediatricians because I wanted a second opinion now, like yesterday. So I made an appointment for the following Tuesday. This was Monday, the 7th of July. So the 8th of July, I had an appointment scheduled for our local pediatrician that I now hired. His name is Dr. Stone. We love Dr. Stone. He is the most amazing guy ever.
Yeah, it's a good dude.
Good doctor. And then we had an appointment scheduled for July 9th with Dr. Pastoric, who you guys will see in an interview here coming up real soon. Saw Dr. Stone, and he suggested that even though Ryder probably caught something, and whether it was a virus or a bug, we just weren't going to feel comfortable knowing, and that with this information that was from the radiologist and the x-ray, that it was probably a really good idea to keep this appointment that we had scheduled for the cardiologist. And I agreed. So we made the appointment for the next day, and Chopper's aunt had to leave that day. So that next morning I told her, actually that the night before, we really weren't making a huge big deal out of it because we were trying to it's just a mistake, but it's good to have this follow-up appointment. He might not be in the picture now. Just to be sure, we wanted to feel comfortable, and we knew that it was a possibility that there was something, but I don't think any of us thought that there would be anything like this at all. So that evening we took Ryder to the park and went swinging because Sherd was going to have to leave the next day, and we wanted to make sure they got their quality time to spend together. That's a pig. And I was going to go to the appointment by myself because Shirley had to fly out the next day. Let her sleep in, and we would go to the appointment. After we got back, we would go to lunch together. Okay, so we go to the appointment, and upon hates that hat on him. Upon going to this appointment, when we got there, we had to wait in the lobby. They were really busy that day for like an hour. And when we finally got in to Ryder's appointment, the first thing they did was weigh him, take his blood pressure. They did an EKG, and his blood pressure was actually kind of low that day, so we didn't know, you want your hat? What was really going on. And then they put us in a room, and we had to wait for Katie, which is actually Ryder's lady that does his echoes every time we go. He's a little grumpy. And Katie was the one who did Ryder's echoes and still does his echoes to this day. It was a very lengthy echo, and she never let on that anything was wrong, but she said that she saw the second that she put that wand on his chest that he was in trouble. And she never said a word, not anything. Great at what she does, I will give her that. So she put us in a room and said that the doctor would be in to see us shortly. And 45 minutes longer, he came in. And okay, so meanwhile, while we're waiting those 45 minutes for Dr. Pastoric to come in and talk to us and tell us it's just a mistake, there's nothing wrong with your son. Ryder and I were just playing and hanging out and taking those selfies and spitting our food out. And when he walked in that door, something inside of me beforehand, we had this discussion on how bad the doctors were before, so Chopper and his aunt had said, why don't you start recording what doctors tell you? Why don't you start recording what doctors tell you so you'll feel more comfortable when they give you a diagnosis or say something that it's easier to listen back and tell somebody or let them listen to it. Since Chopper and Shirley weren't there and I was by myself, I thought, okay, let's record it. So when he walked in, I had it recording sitting there, and I don't, yeah, here we go again, the waterworks, I'm sure.
We've already tried recording this about 3 times, but between cards, memory cards, and everything else, we're trying to get this.
It keeps shutting off, and so this is the hardest part of any video to record and tell people about, and having to do it so many times, it's starting to wear me out. But when he came in and said, best case scenario, this is fixable, but he has to have open heart surgery. And I've already made a call in to the life flight, and you need to call your husband. I don't think I heard anything else, and I've never listened to the recording. I'm sure I asked questions. I don't know what questions I asked. All I could hear was open heart surgery, open heart surgery, open heart surgery. And spitting all over me. I don't know. Anyways, to make a long story short, I called Chopper, and I'm sure he was more stunned, just like I was. And they were there before. I don't know how they got there that fast. Chopper and his aunt came in, and Ryder and I were back in the room with Katie having another echo done to verify a second picture, I guess. And I was a mess. And I wouldn't even let Ryder out of my arms. People kept asking, do you want me to take him? No, you're not taking him from me. And they said that I couldn't ride with him on the helicopter, and that we were going to have to follow. And Atlanta's 4 hours away from us, and the thought of me leaving him for 1 second and knowing he was sick was the hardest thing in the world for me to even think about. So they were going to check us into the pediatric intensive care unit because that was the safest place for him to be until the helicopter got there. And they needed to start an IV just in case he crashed on the way there. Another thought I just can't think about. And they needed to get this IV for multiple reasons, but now it was more overwhelmingly known why we were having such a hard time getting those IVs the times before, because cardiac patients have really bad veins. So that way it was so hard. And they were going to have to do it in his head. So he looks like a unicorn.
Because he'd been stuck so many times from the previous hospital
From the previous visit just a couple days prior. 3 days prior. And now there's a storm rolling in, and Ryder and I are going to have to be put on an ambulance because the helicopter can't fly in this storm.
Ambulance.
So Ryder got to take his first ambulance ride, and Daddy followed. It was a long trip, and Ryder watched movies the whole way there, giggled and smiled and laughed, and we got to Children's Hospital in Atlanta. And they were going to check us in to the cardiac intensive care unit.
It was difficult. It was a difficult drive. It was a horrible experience. Thank God someone was looking out for us.
Mm-hmm.
We got to Atlanta, and it was really weird walking into the second floor of the hospital is dedicated to heart patients. That's it.
Peds. Well,
and
babies.
One half of the wing is for step-down babies, and the other half was is for intensive care babies that are either post-surgery or pre-surgery. And here we show up with this, what we are still thinking is a completely healthy baby that's clowning around like this. Tell me I'm lying.
No.
And we've got a baby with a IV out of the top of his head on top of that, just having the time of his life, not knowing.
And the most frantic parents you could ever imagine.
Yeah, it was very difficult going from that and not knowing what we're going to end up having to do. It was very, very.
So they started echo after echo after echo. And we were told that we would probably have a diagnosis within a matter of hours of us being there. And we're waiting. And waiting. And meanwhile, my mom's already showed up. And she beat us to the hospital. And she lives in Kansas and had to take a flight. So yeah. She's pretty miraculous grandma. And the array of friends that showed up at the hospital to help us over the next 2 weeks.
Besides Marie.
My best friend, my neighbors on the street that we live on, did everything on this planet for us, including bringing us clothes and food and money and taking care of us and just going out of their way to sit with us and hold our hands.
Before I left, actually, I went home to go pack bags and everything else. Sherd was still at the house. She was like, you want me to stay? And I'm like, it's no big deal. He's got a virus. It's no big deal. We're headed to Atlanta to have some tests done.
And we had already heard the doctor tell us what he had. Yeah. Which...
Toss her on a plane. And anyway, it was a relief having her here for the initial shock, and then I don't know everything else. But
don't spit it out anymore. You're done.
I don't know to kind of we've kind of set the groundwork for the next couple of videos, and we wanted to definitely extend. Oh
yeah.
Yeah. Are we missing anything else?
No, the videos here from this point on are probably going to be in a certain array. I'm forgetting bits and pieces, but we also need to say how we got to this point and how you're going to see some of the upcoming videos. Our social worker's name is Jody at the hospital, and she was the most amazing lady to put us in a straight line and to walk us the right path. And she stated very clearly that we needed to take pictures and video footage, whatever we wanted to do and felt comfortable with, because if he didn't have that when he got older, he would be missing out on something very important that he has been through in his life. And he was
cool, making popular with the chicks.
Yes. And
that is exactly what she told us, and we were like,
you're crazy. How do you videotape? How do you take pictures of your child? Even with the IV in his head was hard for me to do. And now you're expecting me to have tubes running out of him, sedated and everything else. And she convinced us in the right way. So the video footage that you're going to see was not intended for anybody to ever see except for him. And when we got to Children's Hospital in Atlanta, there was no source of
There was no sense
visual.
of taking a video or a picture or any of this.
No, there was no sense of anybody to look towards. We looked up ALCAPA and just found clinical terms that said you're possibly not going to make it, and there was nothing. So I turned to YouTube and I looked, and there was hardly nothing. I mean, there was some doctors doing a procedure and one other lady with a son, and it was a short video, and I wanted a visual of this after surgery. I wanted somebody holding their baby saying, we made it. We did it. We're not out of the woods yet, but you're going to get there. And we just want to be able to help one family.
Space is limited on that whole deal. But yeah, like I said, yes, between IVF between ALCAPA, any heart procedures or anything like that, we just want to express our gratitude as far as the people that have watched our videos, the people that have subscribed to Heather's channel. We can't say enough about that. Mostly we'd really like to thank the friends and family that we've got.
Very much so.
For the support that we've got through all this. He's an amazing kid. Today is actually the, what is it, the 14th?
I think so.
Today's the 14th of November.
Yes.
Ryder is now, in 10 days, he'll be 11 months old. So, like I said, we're flashing
back and all this stuff again, but we had to let you know the reason why we're going to be sharing some of the upcoming footage. It's not fun to watch. It's not going to be easy to edit. It's literally footage for him, for people out there to know that it's going to get better and it's going to get easier. It's just really hard in the moment.
It's a challenge. It's
the hardest thing you'll ever go through your entire life and the worst thing that a parent can go through. And at the same time, we're still standing.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but we're still standing.
Yeah.
And you too can make it through this. Just stay positive. So as we sign off this time, we want to again
camera
say
shut off again.
we want to again say thank you for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and we appreciate everything. Bye! Can you say bye? Say bye! Say love you. And I have food all over my outfit. There's his shake. Say abba dabba dabba dabba. You do? Bye guys. Coming off the